back, I remember just mentioning that the calling is not enough. And I had these 5 C's about your path to destiny, and specifically to the destiny in terms of ministry. But then we had this 1 C that did not sit well with most of the leaders where I was teaching. But today I keep on meditating and I keep on looking at it in a wide. I believe most of you who really know what the world looks like, those ones who are frontliners, those ones who are fighting real poverty, those ones who are in the front lines and they are trying to bring change to their society, not the superficial preachers who stand on the pulpits just to preach and talk at people, but people who really bring change. We're talking about spiritual change. We're talking about people who bring social change. We're talking about people who elevate an empowering culture. We are talking about people who look at their congregation and they look at their community in terms of economic empowerment, not empowering themselves, but empowering the other. So looking at these C's, I want to mention 3 of them. One, the calling is very important. Each one of us, even those ones who are working in the hospital, those ones who are working at school, those ones who are working in the church, there must be this calling of God. For we see Joseph working because he was called into that ministry of administration. The area of administration was good for him because it was a calling. Then we're also looking at Jesus. There was a calling upon his life. You're looking at the 12 disciples. There was a calling upon their lives. Praise be to God. But then after the calling, there is a conviction. And this is the C that most people did not agree with me, because they believe that once you are called, you can do the work. But then I want to bring about the word conviction. Conviction, without even defining the word, is your innermost passion and truth knowing about where you're walking. This is the path to destiny. If you don't have an inner drive, that is conviction. If you do not have that inward passion that is sizzling within your heart just to flow out, to help people in the community, to bring about social justice and to bring change, to do practical righteousness, then I think you do not have conviction. The calling is not enough. Let's see, for example, we have an example in the Bible of a man who was called to go to Nineveh, and his name is Jonah, but he did not have conviction after the calling. Did he go to Nineveh? No. He had to be forced by being swallowed by a fish to go to Nineveh. So my question is, after the calling, should we just go or must we have conviction? The danger of not having conviction is this, that you will work in a place, then you will end up fighting one another because you think calling means you preaching on the pulpit. Then you start fighting one another. You start castigating one another. You start criticizing one another. You start breaking and tearing each other down. We are told that the house that is in conflict with itself does not stand. Then we are fighting each and every day because we think calling is putting on a suit and going to church and to preach the gospel. This is wrong. There must be a conviction. What does conviction do? Look at Peter, for example, and look at Paul. These 2 people were called by God, but each one of them was given a path to walk. And them believing in the path that they were called, even though they were scourged and beaten, they believed in their path. They stuck to their path. Why? Because they were passionate about the path. They had an inner knowing about this path, and they believed this is what they've been called to, and this is what we call conviction. So Paul writes 13 or 14, depending with where you learned your theology, 13 or 14 letters in the Bible. That is half of the New Testament. This man writes because he is convicted. He has an inner passion, an inner drive that is sizzling within his heart, and he wants it to come out. And therefore, this is what I call conviction. What does it do? It gives each and every one of us a path to walk. Yes, we can all be teachers, but my conviction about teaching is leadership development. Your conviction about teaching is family empowerment. Your conviction about teaching is economic empowerment. Your conviction about teaching is cultural change. Your idea of teaching is spiritual empowerment. So all of us have different ways of expressing our calling, and that comes from the area of conviction. Once we have conviction, we know that Paul is called to the Gentiles, and they believe that, and the Bible says they were given the right hand of fellowship. And Peter preaches the salvation of faith of Jesus Christ. He preaches to the Jews, and he remains in his stand. They conflicted at a point. They sent spies after Paul. Why? Because they did not understand what this guy is doing is different from what you're doing. But because of conviction, he stuck to the path. My question to you is, yes, God has called each and every one of us. The difference between those who move forward, who go to the front lines, and those who remain behind is the conviction, the passion, the inner knowledge of this is my destiny path. So we have the calling, we have the conviction, but again, there's something else that will differentiate those ones who will change the world, those ones who are change makers, those who are destiny breakers. Judas Iscariot is called. He has a conviction to walk with Jesus and be a disciple of Jesus, to propagate the gospel. But then he makes a choice, and this choice that he makes lands him into trouble. So yes, you are called. You are called by God. But then you have to have conviction within you. And after conviction, I believe all of us must make choices. Choices will either lead us to death or lead us to life. Choices are so powerful that when we can choose to do anything. God has given us because every choice has a consequence. For me, I believe in the choosing of Jesus, and I invite you to believe with me that in choosing Jesus Christ, I have a path to heaven. That is the consequence of my choice in believing in Jesus. But let's come back to calling. You have been called by God. You have a conviction within you, but then you have to make a choice. Judas Iscariot made the wrong choice. Peter made the correct choice. He was called. He was convicted about the choice, and when he messed up, he decided to go back to Jesus. This is a choice that is made. So we have choices that we can make. For example, I can shave my beard or not. That is just a choice of the world here. I can decide to comb my hair or not. I can decide to wear a suit or not. Those are choices that are not destiny making choices. But then we have choices that create your destiny. These are choices to follow your conviction according to your calling. Get that right. If we get this right, we will never fight again. We will never criticize others. We will know this is what God has called them to do. This is the conviction they have, and this is the choice they make. So we make our choices. We make our choices, which are determined by our convictions. Our convictions are determined by our calling. So the calling is important, but without the conviction of this calling, you will not make the correct choice. And if you have the correct calling, the correct conviction, and you choose to sit with it, like many people have decided to sit, they have info. This is why I really dislike this gospel where people are given information without being charged forward to go and do something with it. I believe in a gospel that transforms. This is the essence of the gospel. It's meant to be transformative, not just many people have taught people in the church to be conformative. Some people have just used the gospel as informative, but I am saying that this gospel transforms. This is the essence of the gospel, that once I hear the gospel of Jesus Christ, my life is changed. So if I am making a choice, let me make a choice because there is a transformation within me, and I choose this path for the better. So we have a calling, we have the conviction, and we have choices to make. So let us make a choice today. For all of us are called for something. My question is, using the conviction that you have, what are you doing? You don't need a big church. You don't need a big congregation. You don't need people around you that are so many. You don't need a lot of gold and silver. You only need God. You need a conviction, and begin doing something in the place where you are in. You might be alone and you choose to write a book that will change the world. Did you need a congregation for that? No. You may choose to help your neighbor out. That is a conviction you had. It's a choice you're making. So every choice that we make, every destiny deciding choice that we try to make, that we decide today, that we make today, let us make them from our conviction. So God has called you, but please go to the place of prayer, seek for conviction. This conviction will help you make a choice. So make a choice today to be the change that you want to know. If you want to know your convictions, sometimes I say, Just you want to know your real conviction within your heart. Sometimes it is what disgusts you, what you really hate to see, what that is what you're passionate about. You don't like to see brutality. That is what you're convicted about. There are people who look at the screen and they see brutality, doesn't make anything to them, doesn't mean anything. There are people who see the climate and they say, I have to make a change. There are people who make social life change and they see people suffering in the area and they say, I can bring a change. The thing that you hate most can probably be the conviction that you need. So tap into that. Tap into the pain of what you're seeing in the society. Let it be a conviction and make a choice to start one step at a time, one person at a time, one family at a time. If you're writing, one stroke of the pen at a time, and everything will start changing around you. So this gospel is transformative. This is what you need. You need calling. Yes, you need conviction. Yes, but you also have to make a choice. And this choice will lead you to the next level. God bless you. Shalom and peace.